afternoon, all you rockin' awesome people out there. My name is Scott Schertzen, alongside Mr. Obie Spencer and Mr. Brandon Kaye, and welcome to the Sports Den on Spanglish World Network, Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. Kindly remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment because both apps are free. Zingo TV, by the way, is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Now that we got that out of the way, welcome to the Sports Den, where we have a whole mess of things to go into. And one person in absolute particular that I want to 100% hear from when it comes to a certain person right now that he has a modicum of contempt for. So Mr. Brandon Kaye, by the way, Mr. Obie Spencer, hello there. Mr. Brandon Kaye, if you also feel to go into it, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I was up super early today, but I am locked, loaded, ready to go.
Okay. Oh, word has at this point come down, and this is a whole thing when it comes to Tom Brady, where there was the possibility that Tom Brady might have ended up in Miami, which, by the way, this is actually what it would have looked like. He would have, in theory, ended up alongside Mr. Sean Payton. However, Mr. Brian Flores may have had something to do with that. I wanted to actually specifically and definitely turn this over to you, sir, because I know for a fact you have some opinions when it comes to this as an ardent Jets fan and as an absolutely unquestioned ardent Tom Brady hater. Sir, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I believe this is going to be my first time on any of our shows finally breaking my silence on this. I've been referring to him since he had left and then came back as Voldemort because I didn't want to speak his name. And I'm really at the point where this is just a Brady bunch of nonsense. But it does provide clarity because through this time, through basically since he walked off the field last for the Bucs, up until this point, we have gotten this kind of Swiss cheese of facts and rumors circling Tom Brady and what he was going to do in this, his upcoming future. Mm-hmm. I think we are starting to get more of a solid block of cheddar cheese here because this is starting to make a lot more sense. I think it's funny because it would really speak to kind of almost how petty Tom Brady is because, yes, obviously he has dominated the AFC East since the day he stepped on the field. But there's been one, I don't even want to say the team, but there's one location that obviously has this team with it that has given him trouble, and that is in Miami. Mm-hmm. So I think that part of it, too, the idea of, take your family to nice weather, you can make Giselle happy. You could, honestly, a big thing, too, you could go back and stick it to Bill Belichick being in that division. Yeah, I mean, just looking at that, to bring in Peyton, or what would have happened if you had brought in Peyton, Brady, and then you trade for a Tyreek Hill, that would be an extremely dangerous team. Mm-hmm. I would admit that, and we already have the Bills to deal with in this division. We still have the Patriots to some degree. The Dolphins are still better than us. So we're looking all the way up at these teams. So I really don't want to make it harder for us or think of an idea that would make it more tumultuous for me for another season or 2 seasons or whatever. But, I've had issues with Brady, how he's handled this retirement, so to speak. I mean, Kim K and Chris Humphrey's marriage lasted longer than his retirement. And between the way he handled it, the timing of certain announcements, I really felt like it took a lot of spotlight and attention away from other main things that were going on at that time. Mainly the 2 things was the start of March Madness and the Saturday before the Super Bowl. The day before the the week before. It was very close to the Super Bowl, and I just thought it was like, you know what, dude, if you're going to do it, just wait another week or 2, just let the Super Bowl happen, and then you can have your whole summer of glorified, congratulations. But we're really starting to see what Tom Brady is in his head. This is really starting to play out now.
And what's interesting about this, and Obie, I'll turn it over to you in a sec. What's interesting about this also is when he made that retirement announcement, when he did, you were pissed off at him at the time for the decision to do the timing of it then, thinking this is weird. This is egotistical. Something is bizarre. So credit to you on this one. You actually saw something fishy about that as it ended up happening. And now we're starting to get some ideas why.
Yeah, and the idea, and if you want to bring the Bucks back into it, Obie, I'll go to you. So now, if the Dolphins plan fails, you go to you go back to Tampa, and then you're like, look, if I'm coming, then you got to Bruce Arians or something's got to go. So this is really starting to make a lot of sense, and we're really starting to see the inner mechanisms of Tom Brady's brain.
I think Tom Brady should be thanking him for messing up his plans. I know Tom Brady thinks he's all that, and I know, Scott, you still think Tom Brady is a great quarterback. I saw a guy who was getting old.
I've lost a little bit of respect for him after all this, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
I saw a guy who was having more and more trouble getting it done against the Rams. Everyone loved his second half, but he still only had one drive that wasn't 30 yards for a touchdown. And if this guy was in the AFC next year, with the way it ended up coming down, first of all, Tyreek doesn't get traded to Miami. Miami does not have the assets to get Tyreek from Kansas City at that point. Maybe Wilson doesn't go there, but let's say Wilson does. I don't think he gets out of the East. He has a quarterback who's probably as good as him, if not better, in the East, just because of his age. The quarterbacks there are outrageous. He's got one guy standing in his way in the NFC, which is the way he likes it, because he used to have one guy in the AFC named Brady. So I think that, Manning. So I think that I'm more down on him as the player. I don't mind the mechanisms that players try to do. I don't mind people trying to get the best work environment and the most money they can for themselves. And I have lots of bad things to say about Brady myself on who he is. But this sort of thing, I'm okay with. I'm going to work it out so I can be on the team I want with the coach I want. Good luck. Now, they do say that even if he had gotten there, he would have had to wait a year for Payton. Payton was taking this year off. That's the articles I've read. This was a year off. And he was probably going to go to the Cowboys, and that Miami, I guess, would try to fight the Cowboys for him. But we'll see what Sean Payton does next year. But in the end, he's back at the Bucs. It's a nice place to be. There's no competition in his division. There's barely any competition in his conference. Can you imagine if San Francisco loses Deebo Samuel? You're talking 3 teams, 4 teams. The NFC, if you think you could be a wild card team in the NFC, you feel very good about yourself, because you could possibly even be winning your division with one key injury. So I think he's happier now here. I'm not angry at him for this. I just think in general there's some sleaze around him. This is just one more thing, trying to maneuver. But this is one of the things I don't mind. I don't mind players trying to get to where they want to be, because we do that in our jobs and our lives too.
Now, here's the question that I've got. Years ago, 20 years back, when Michael Jordan came out of retirement, there was a lot of confusion in the NBA because he was both owner of Washington and also a player. This sort of same situation would have occurred here, where Tom Brady, although not a complete owner, would have at least been a minority owner of the team he would have played for. Would that have been a complication, or at the end of the day, would it really be much ado about nothing?
That's an interesting salary cap question that I'll leave to the front office to maintain. He already scooted the salary cap in New England. I keep banging this drum, and nobody cares that they paid TB12, a company he owned, money, and everyone's like, "Oh, the NFL's like, that was fine." I think they would have done the same thing. That's fine. Go ahead, scoot the rules. We're okay with it. So I think the NFL would let them get away with it, but who knows what the other owners would have felt with it being Miami.
I actually think the ownership aspect of it wouldn't even be much of an issue, just because of how strong the shield of the NFL is, how strong the owners as a collective, and that upper echelons of management in the NFL, the league. I think that would still kind of I don't want to say overpower, but it would still be kind of the dominating force and all that. I think he could, unless there's some bylaw that says you can't own and play at the same time, then there's, logistic, then go ahead and do it. The thing with Miami though, and you go back to Obie, you said in work environment, does he really want to play? The one thing I'll say that is good about this plan falling out, does he really want to play for Stephen Ross? I mean, an owner that has been ripped apart recently for obviously tanking. I think I don't know. I think first off, looking at that picture, Sean Payton looks better in Miami colors than Brady does.
I don't really hate Brady in that look. I really don't, and that's just my take. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just my view on it. I think personally, he looks better in that outfit than he does actually in the Bucs uniform, but that's just my own opinion. But as far as the Bucs go, yeah, like Obie, I think you said, him going back to Tampa is not a bad consolation prize. He just misses out for now being minority owner of the Miami Dolphins. After retirement, whatever year that ends up being, I'm sure that's going to be something that will be revisited if it is not unofficially revisited prior. But if Gronk comes back, and a lot of the core components and obviously the players that they've added with Tampa, there is no reason Tampa can't win that division and probably even go even further if Tom Brady stays healthy.
Yeah, I think it is. The only thing with the Buccaneers aspect of it is some of these players, like I get it that it's Tom Brady, like the GOAT, I'm admitting that too. And there is that level of aura and just cachet, obviously. But some of these players, are they going to kind of be accepting of Brady coming back after knowing that he would rather be in Miami or another than kind of you came back to Tampa, back to us? I think that might kind of be in some of these guys' minds, but at the end, I think when training camp starts, if this is, he's back on the Bucs, I think once training camp starts, then everything will kind of be all fine and dandy. But just this whole in and out saga of I'm here, I'm not here, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm owner, I'm player, I'm done with it. Done with it.
Well,
just
I think
training camp and that's it.
I think in this case here, as far as the players go, what really is going to end up being, prevalent is how well the team does. If the team struggles out of the gate, if he struggles out of the gate, then I think the players are going to turn on him much more quickly. But if they start out 4-0, 4-1, 5-1 type of thing, they're going to let this go pretty quickly. So
they didn't even start hot 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. They were 7-6 before they actually started to get things going into the playoffs and obviously winning the Super Bowl. So it could very well. Now you're 2 years removed from that. There was obviously digression last year, taking a step back. Is there even another step this year? It's obviously very possible.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, Mr. Spencer?
Not on Tom Brady. We can let him go.
All right. So at the end of the day, it'll be curious to end up seeing what happens there. I'm really interested to find out. But basically, Brandon, being a Jets fan, I'm probably sure you're in some ways at least happy because it means a little less to deal with as far as the Miami competition goes. Now you just have to deal with Tyreek Hill. You don't have to deal with Sean Payton and or Tom Brady there. So kudos to you and the Jets Nation.
Yeah, that's all right. Just make the Jets secondary more of a weakness than it already is. That's fine.
That's fine.
That's good. Go ahead.
So, cool. So, hey guys, do you want to feel more popular? Keep the promo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a spam message. We can probably drop that comment there. I don't know. Can we get 10 free viewers a day? Anyway, we're basically
only at Obie too.
I know,
Ouch.
really. There we go. Adios.
Jeez.
So, all right. So basically, there we go. So, all right. But we do have a new picture at this point. We have a new topic as well. This is, of course, the Sports Den on Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 249 and 250. If we can put that next picture up there in the same box you had before, I love that setup. Please continue that. You're awesome, sir. We're going to talk a little bit about the NBA play-in tournament. I wanted to basically break this down a little bit. It's more complicated. My take personally, it's more complicated than it needs to be as far as how this whole system goes. Oh, okay. So one person basically is like, no, this is easy. The other person's like, yeah. So, okay. So all those in favor of the fact the NBA play-in tournament is complicated, raise your hand.
Complicated? Yeah.
Yeah.
In favor of it? Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a genius to understand it.
So there we go. Beautiful. Loving it. And get rid of that comment too. God, do we really want to be more popular? Apparently we do. Okay. By the way, Eduardo, if we can expand that out a little bit, that'd be top notch as well. Okay. So as far as the play-in playoff format goes, correct me if I'm wrong on this. You got 7 and 8. You got 7 and 8 going against each other. You got 9 and 10 going against each other. The loser of 7 and 8 goes up against the winner of 9 and 10, and then those two, whoever wins there goes on. So winner of 7 and 8 moves on. Loser of 7 and 8.
Yeah, the winner of 7-8 is 7.
Yeah. Yeah, the winner of 7 and 8 is officially number 7.
Right.
The loser of 7 and 8 goes against the winner of 9 and 10. The two-man sack race will be held on continual Sundays until a clear winner's result. I don't know. Is that too much? Is it too complicated?
It's not, because how else are you going to do it to get 2 teams out of 4? Are you going to just going to let 7 play 10 and 9 play 8? Here's the thing why it's so brilliant. First of all, adding the 2 extra teams reduces probably 4 teams per conference's desire to tank at the beginning. The next brilliant thing, the number 9 team gets a home game, which makes it even more enticing to get there. If you just made it 7 and 8 play 9 and 7 plays 10 and the winners advance, the 9 and 10 teams only get a visitor share of a playoff game versus the 9 team getting an opportunity to get a whole home game and a half in a visitor share, and the 10 team getting 2 visitor shares if they win. So you up their desire to play because it gives the owners pure financial reward. And it's really a good system because there's 7 and 8 get to play, and all right, the winner moves on because they would have gone in anyway. And then the loser has to prove that they're actually good enough to be in the playoffs in a playing game. So it's not a pure tournament. It's a little, one team has double elimination. It's not the most complicated double elimination I've ever seen. But I think it's great, especially because of the incentives it gives the owners and the GMs to try to go out and win. Because basketball, more than any other sport, has the biggest problem with tanking. Literally, they trust the process. They coined the term. They apply it to other teams. And this hurts that desire to tank a little bit, not a lot. Between this and the way they adjusted the lottery, prevents a little more tanking. And
NBA bingo. Yeah, it's a great system.
Yeah. So, because if you didn't have bingo, teams would make tanking a sport. Like it'd make baseball look like they're trying right now.
Yeah, but what you're doing now is showing the middle of the road average teams in the conference that just continue what you're doing, stay average, and we'll reward you with a game, whether it be home or away. If first of all you want to use the argument that a home playoff game, or you get ticket sales revenue from a home playoff game, you know what you get from that too? Being in a playoff series where you get 3 or 4 games at home. I don't like this idea of these top teams are going to be the top teams, and then you have or if you're going to do 7 through 10 or 11, if they're fighting in, to just keep this kind of middle of the road, just be above average, just keep your head above water. I think it's stupid. I really do.
But we know that in basketball,
March Madness to April foolishness. That's what this tournament is.
We know that in basketball, if you don't reward mediocre, teams will have an unbelievable incentive to be horrible, because that is the way to get the best players. The New York Knicks, the biggest market in the world, because they have bad ownership, can't attract free agents. At this point, players pick their teams once they're free agents. This is the only, if you do not reward mediocrity, teams have to try to do what the Sixers did. They have to. So you have to try to reward some level of mediocrity, giving them a few extra bucks. Besides, in the last 2 years, we've had LeBron James and Kevin Durant in this playoff series. So we've gotten the 2 best players in the game, the 2 biggest markets on people's eyes. Steph Curry was in this last year. So it's not like it's not attracting big names. And also, it gives those people who are big into basketball but don't start watching to the playoffs, because that's a large number of people, one extra opportunity to see that next guy who's coming up the ladder, see him in 1 or 2 games, and it builds buzz for that team for next year. So I think I'm not going to expand to 10 full teams. That's crazy. But it does give – it's like when the baseball started with the 1-game wild card. Is it gimmicky? Yes. But it makes sense. It gets more teams, less tanking, more eyes to see those next up-and-coming players. And you've had big guys in it 2 years in a row now. LeBron and Durant.
Yeah, but
And
now we can sit here in 6 or 7 hours and not have either of them in the playoffs because the Nets lose in this play-in game to the Cavs, which they just beat at home on Friday. What they should do is, if you want to keep these bottom, these 9 and 10 seeds, then just fully expand it and give the top 2 seeds a first-round bye. And then on top of that, take 6 or 8 games off the regular season.
But you've been a proponent of contraction for pretty much every sport, but they're clearly not going to do that because there's that's a loss of revenue, it's a loss of money. They're not going to go that direction.
Not if they're making it up with this another round of playoffs or another two full teams in the playoffs.
I don't know if they're going to basically cut back on the regular season, even if they expand the playoffs. I think they'll just continue to expand.
Okay,
the
so even still, again, more games, more revenue.
Especially now with sports betting being what it is.
On this year, 9 and 10, you now got me at least 1, possibly 2, if not getting him into a series. Trey, what's that? The kid's name on Atlanta who's totally escaping me.
Trey,
who was the star of the playoffs last year, right? So now he's a 9 seed, probably what they deserve based on looking at everybody else in the division conference. So, but now there's a chance, right? If they win and then they go on to beat the Cavs or the Nets, or wouldn't you like to see the Nets? Like, the excitement that you can build for it is worth it because the bottom feeding teams, the Pelicans, I mean, he didn't come back, but if Zion had come back, just in time for the playoffs, we've gotten to see Zion. So if you look at these 9 and 10 teams, there's at least one guy of interest in there. So I think you're going to get these to come in. I don't know past history if we went back and we looked how many other times there's been a team that was looking good and had an injury and the guy missed 40 games, and maybe the guy would have come back at the end of the season if there was a play-in game, and you get that story. Because just getting those guys, getting Trae Young on TV one more time or 2 more times is amazing for the NBA. Mm-hmm. And I hear you expanding it, but the thing about the playoffs in basketball, for the most part, it is predictable. It is very chalky in the NBA, especially when you expand it to so many games. This takes away chalk, but it only takes away chalk at the lower level. So the better teams, the teams that went out and earned it, the Heat, the Celtics, the Bucks, they don't get affected by some craziness. The only craziness being, of course, that the Nets are what the Nets were, but that was regular season. They still would have been 7th seed. So I love it. I think it's a good ploy, and you're really only adding 3 games to the playoffs. And you're incentivizing people not to tank just a little bit more.
A counter proposal. I just came up with this idea now. Okay, so we still have 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Mm-hmm. What if, being that this whole week up until, I think Saturday, I think the actual first round starts. So if this week is all playing games, what they should do is have seeds 7 and 8 play a 3-game series for the 7th seed. Have the 9 and 10 seeded teams play a 3-game series for the 8th seed. That way, you get rid of a play-in tournament. You still have like an actual round of the playoffs, and at the end of the day, you still come into the playoffs with the actual legitimate 7 and 8 teams. Because we could sit here and have the Cavs beat the Nets, and then if the Nets lose, you want Trae Young to come back to New York in a game?
Yes.
But the only problem with that, here's the problem with that, though, is that you're going to have – here's the problem you're going to have with that, though, is that you're actually punishing one of the 7 or 8 teams for reaching 7 or 8. At least –
we're punishing them. We're somewhat punishing them anyway by even putting them in a play-in game, having the chance to lose.
That will be
You have decreased the reward for 7 and 8 by rewarding 9 and 10, but you are still giving 7 and 8 the best chance to get in. Like, I have other ideas on how to make the NBA playoffs better too. Like, because so my old thought would be that you should go the 1-8 should be 3 games at 8, 4 games at 1. So the lousy team gets guaranteed 3 home games in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But if the number 1 seed sweeps those 3 games, then they can rest. They don't have to play the 4th game at home. They get that rest because obviously we're a 1 seed. We just beat the 8 seed 3 games in a row on the road. obviously we're the dominant team. Let my players rest. Because again, it's about incentivizing teams to want to get into the playoffs. So I guarantee you a third home game as a 7 or 8 seed. But this kind of does it. It gives those bottom feeding teams something to play for and a reason to try to not just tank away for those lottery picks. And it gives us as fans an opportunity to see Trae Young. Like you said, Trae Young going to Brooklyn. We want that, right? Like, we want that.
Okay, but then again, now we can find ourselves in a full playoffs with no LeBron, no Anthony Davis, no Kevin Durant, no Kyrie Irving.
It's a greater embarrassment.
Already no Ben Simmons. Forgetting that whole train, the runaway train. I mean, I don't. First off, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This wasn't necessary to begin with. If you wanted to just do this kind of the 1 year for the COVID bubble purpose to
Hockey
whatever, fine.
did that. NHL did that.
The Clippers and the Spurs, they were clear 5 games behind the 7 and 8 seed. So it's not even necessary for them. At least in the East, you can argue that they have, with 1 or 2 game record difference where it, it kind of matters.
Yeah, everyone's 44 or 43 wins.
Sure. Yeah. But, you can't do it one conference can do it this year and one doesn't do it next year, or both do it. You can't do that either. So I don't know. I don't think this was necessary to begin with. And I call it April foolishness now. That's my new thing. We finish March Madness with college, and then we get this play-in April foolishness tournament.
You're just coining all these phrases.
I'm a coiner. I'm a coiner. I gotta open my own mint.
Exactly. All these colloquialisms you got going on here. So
I know.
All right. So basically, at the end of the day, one of you is in favor, one of you is not. My question is, if at any point are they going to expand it? So you suddenly got 12 teams, hell, 14 teams. Why not? And then how embarrassing is it when you miss that entirely? As the Knicks are probably going to be, we want to do anyway. I'm willing to give it a shot. I think it falls into what, I think maybe they took a page out of March Madness where you got, the team that 64th team there. I think it's convoluted. I think it's overcomplicated, but I don't entirely hate it myself. I think it does add a little hint of intrigue and also additional embarrassment. I think, Obie, you do have a point on this, that it is doubly embarrassing if you fall short of 10. Falling short of 8 is one thing out of 16. Falling short of 10 out of 16 is a totally different ballgame. So if a team falls short and is 100% eliminated, you got to look yourself right in the eye. When the New Jersey Devils during the COVID year missed the playoffs, when only 8 teams out of 32 could miss the playoffs, 24 teams got in. My team did not. I understand that embarrassment there. You made it so much easier in that situation, and my team was still watching from the sidelines. It's an unbridled, unquestioned embarrassment. And as far as the Knicks go, it's an embarrassment to the NBA in general. That team has such money, has such fame and notoriety that it's famous for being famous. It is essentially like the Paris Hilton or the Kim Kardashian of the NBA. Dude, they're famous for being famous. They're not famous for what they actually do.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I like that. I thought that was a good analogy.
Thank you. I get one once in a while here. So, all right. So anyway, we're going to move on from that topic there. This is the Sports Den. This is, of course, my name is Scott Schertzen. Alongside me is the definitely smarter Mr. Obie Spencer and the definitely smarter Mr. Brandon Kaye. But I need to go into something else basically before we start talking about. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different direction. Max Verstappen has been in the news. Lewis Hamilton has actually been a little bit in the Twitter news by virtue of the fact that he was filling up his own gas tank, and apparently the internet went ballistic about it because he was just sitting there filling up his own gas tank as a regular dude in England, and the internet exploded like basically pouring champagne on Kim Kardashian's ass in that one picture where she broke the internet. This too broke the internet. Obie, I know you wanted to talk a little Formula One. You had a couple of things I think you wanted to bring up on that. So I will turn it over to you, sir.
Well, he obviously wasn't in Jersey.
No. So,
we self-serve in Jersey. We just don't care.
I can get let's not talk about the Jersey thing. The Formula One season is off. It's running. Verstappen has only finished 2 of the 3 races. The Red Bull car itself did not finish the first. Both Perez and Verstappen didn't finish the first race. So there may be some issues with the reliability of that car. Now, the thing that's interesting here is 2 years heading into last year, the great season that was, the big controversy, the close season, the big difference between Verstappen and Hamilton heading in was not that Red Bull wasn't building a fast car, because their car straight line speed may be faster than Mercedes. It looks to be faster than Ferrari this year. It was that Verstappen has a bunch of DNFs. He does not finish more than the other great racers. And we're seeing it again this year. Now, I'm newer to the sport, so I'm not positive whether it's a Red Bull issue or whether it's a Verstappen issue overall. But that may come to really bite him this year, as Leclerc and Ferrari has looked spectacular every race. Mercedes, it's like a clear tier 2 car they have now, where it's Red Bull and Ferrari, then Mercedes, and then who is underneath keeps shuffling around the American Haas team, which has a great funny story, depending on how you feel about getting into Ukraine and Russian politics, et cetera, has had some points scored this year. So it's been a very exciting season, but I think Verstappen's in real trouble. I do not know if he's going to be able to close the gap. It wouldn't be the biggest gap closing ever. It's certainly possible. For those of you who watched the movie Rush, Hunt closed more points that season than Verstappen would have this season. And of course, it's very early in the season. I'm just not feeling confident in my reading, watching, and talking to people that suggests that this Red Bull team is going to be able to finish enough races compared to the Ferrari team to go ahead and challenge. And Verstappen might be one and done. And Ferrari looks like they may be back, which would be wonderful for the F1 world to get them back on top.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, no, I know. I have to. And now back to American sports.
And now back to this. Well, actually, I was going to say F1 will be in the U.S. later this year too. So
yes, and next year in Vegas. So I'm personally already working on getting there with the wifey, because we love Vegas, and watching them race around the strip should be something of spectacular, to say the least.
I never got into Vegas. I tried. Maybe because I lost money so quickly that I was just like baffled for the rest of the day how fast I lost it.
I don't gamble till like the last night or the next to last night. There's so much to do in Vegas. It's like whatever I have left, I then go and play some poker with. And I'm actually up in my time in Vegas. But I play poker. I don't play against the house, because the house always wins.
Yeah, that's kind of designed that way to make sure you do lose. I don't know. Vegas is one of those weird places where you get a cheeseburger for $14, but you can literally get a 6-pack of beer in the exact same location for like $7. Get you a little twisted that way. You don't want to eat because it might make you a little too, sober to actually be able to spend more money.
What's that? That Fulton Street you walk through there, the with the overhang and the zip line. Was that Fulton Street?
Yeah, in Old City.
Yeah. I always wanted to head down there. I was in Vegas as a baby with my parents and grandparents on a family trip many, many, many years ago, very young. But it's weirdly like the most vivid remembrance of a vacation I've ever had. And I'm dying to go back as an adult now that can do things with adult money.
We took our kids. The first time I took my wife, we took our kids. A family vacation. There's so much to do. It's not Disney, but there's still a lot to do.
Probably less expensive than Disney, though, I would think.
If not equal. Plus, at least you get a chance to make some money back when you can go gamble.
By the way, go ahead.
The big difference is the flight. Like, to fly to Vegas is like $125 round trip. To fly to Orlando from the East Coast is like $650. It's like, wait, what? It's a big difference.
Check out Ryan's rant on Tales from the Film Set about his recent trip to Orlando. And that's why I stand by Vegas in this particular case. All right. So what is old is new again in this case. And I want to revisit something because honestly, this means a lot to me and frankly doesn't mean anywhere between diddly and or squat, I think, to most of you guys. For me personally, growing up as an 80s kid here in New Jersey, we were raised on the New Jersey Generals. This was the team that we had with Maurice Carthon. We had with Herschel Walker, Doug Flutie, Jim Kelly, technically future Hall of Famer for the Buffalo Bills, was actually part of that team. And starting this weekend on Saturday, we got USFL football again. And I got to tell you, my 80s kids side is really, really, really fired up because these were all 8 teams that were in the original USFL. Right now, as far as this developmental league goes, the New Jersey Generals have Luis Perez, who I actually covered 2 years ago during the XFL because he played for the New York Guardians. So when he played for the New York Guardians at MetLife Stadium, I covered him then and did the postgame. Ironically enough, he played at MetLife Stadium, and now he's representing Jersey's team as the quarterback 2 years later in a totally different league. So I got to tell you, my 80s kid right now is getting fired up about this because when that league folded, and I'm not going into details or political reasons why, it broke my heart. As a little 10-year-old kid, I adored the USFL. I had dreams and aspirations of being a quarterback for the New Jersey Generals, and it killed me as a kid when that league folded. Ironically, that year was also the year the Mets won the World Series, so it wasn't that bad, but it meant – what's that?
Silver linings.
It was a silver lining. But as a kid, you don't really understand why a league can completely fold. I used to go to the USFL championship game. They used to have that at the old Giant Stadium back then when Philadelphia beat was it Orlando, I think, one year? I don't know. I got the ticket, actually, the 1985 ticket. So the fact that now here we are, 37 years after the league folded, and it's coming back again. Honestly, like I said, it may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but by God in heaven, it means the world to me right now. Now, having said that, I don't think it's perfect. I think there are some really stupid things about it. First and foremost, the fact that every single game is being played in Birmingham, Alabama. They are not playing them here. They're not playing them here. They're all playing them in Alabama because when you think football, you think Alabama.
It's not even a neutral site at that.
It's actually, it is sort of a neutral site, but it's basically adults pay $10, kids get in for free. But there is a Birmingham team.
Right.
There's a Birmingham team.
Right.
So who's the Birmingham team going to be, fans going to be rooting for? New Jersey or Birmingham? I like some of the things that they've got in this case. They do have the 3-point play after a touchdown, kind of like the XFL did. They do have a lot of the same sort of thing. I'm curious in this case because they're broadcasting it both on Fox and on NBC simultaneously. So for the Generals game on Saturday, you got your pick and choice on this one. I believe Mark Sanchez, by the way, is doing the color commentary for Fox on that one. I'm not sure who's doing NBC, but
better not be Apple TV's guys. Ugh.
Dude,
Jesus. Well, we can get to that later. We'll get to that later.
No, you know what? We're gonna this is something I want to bring up in this case. And we don't generally as a rule talk about other broadcasts, but I talked to you that night. This is something actually, I think we're good as far as
I couldn't be silent.
What's that?
I couldn't be silent on this. I just had to.
No, it's okay. We're going to go into that. Obie, go ahead, please.
I think that USFL is going to be interesting in one respect for data folks about home field because in theory the Alabama team should have the fans rooting for them, but nobody has travel issues. It's kind of like the bubble, but with one team having fan advantage and everyone else just having the travel advantage. It'll be interesting to see because I think this is a 2-year experiment where they're down there. How that affects the Bama team. Are they better? Do they seem to perform better statistically than they should? The data nerds are going to actually get to love that and look into that. So just wanted to put that out there for the home field. Doesn't matter and doesn't matter same in every sport people. There'll at least be some football knowledge. I digress.
And go ahead. I got to say something.
That's it. Now on to announcers.
No, Brandon,
no,
go ahead.
Well, I do want to say this, though, being that it is, 8 teams that they had in the original league, I think it is going to do a great job of bringing in the old fan base that has kids now.
Okay.
Or even not. But bringing all of the old, fan base in, but having the advantage now of spreading it to a new fan base. I think it is going to do better. I think it is going to do better than.
I'm moving the camera a little bit. If you look at the end of the camera, right about there, you can see my original New Jersey Generals USFL cups from 1985, which you got when you spent enough money at a 7-Eleven. So, like I said, as a fan, I'm excited for that. But it's also interesting because of the fact that you got the USFL, you got the XFL coming back, you have the fan-controlled football. So the Johnny Mizell, I think Marshawn Lynch League, where the fans themselves call the plays and then dictate instant replay and a lot of the different things in there, which I think the NFL can take a page from. And I think the NFL should take a page from it. But we can break that one down because I think we have some clear disagreements on that one. But I like some of the things that FCF has got as well. But, Eduardo, if you want to drop that picture out, that's fine. I appreciate it. I don't think we're going to need any more pictures at this point. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit, Brandon, because you got the opportunity the other day to watch the Mets game on Apple TV.
Yes.
You had the chance to be able to see what that was like. In this case, obviously, you lose out on Gary, Keith, and Ron, who are considered to be one of the best trios in Major League Baseball as it comes to
voices of my summer. The voices of my summers, really.
And not even basically hometown discount. I mean, the world kind of recognizes Gary, Keith, and Ron as being like arguably the best tandem in all of Major League Baseball and even all sports across the board. So you had the chance to sit there and watch the Apple TV broadcast, which of course requires an Apple TV subscription. Talk a little bit about what it was like watching that Mets game on Apple TV.
It was, first off, I think it was, before I even get to the quality of it, I think the third or fourth inning, there was just a complete Apple blackout where it went out for like 2 or 3 minutes. And like, I thought like my Wi-Fi went out. Mm-hmm. And my dad, he was upstairs and I had to set up Apple TV on 2 separate smart TVs. And even him was like, is it working? Is it working? I'm like, no. And we thought it was the Wi-Fi, which, okay, you know what? If you want just a technical hitch, fine. I think, though, that the Mets, was the very first. There was like 3 games over the course of that night, but I think the Mets was the first one. So the first Apple TV coverage of any Major League Baseball. Yeah, right. And they were all right. Forgetting the commentary, they were very, very minimal on graphics, like exactly what you would expect Apple kind of graphics to be. That's exactly what it was. It was just your box, your rounded box with your plain text and your couple lines. And they didn't, I don't know how many cameras they had access to, because there were a lot of times where I wanted to see a replay from a certain angle. And I know I would have gotten in on SNY or ESPN or any of these other, but not one on Apple TV. So that part of it really bothered me. And then the commentary. They had former Met and Diamondback Chris Young, which that is fine. Mm-hmm. You have a former player in, that's all fine and good.
It was a good idea anyway.
And then you had these 3 girls, and it's not like, don't get me wrong, it is not the female aspect of it. It was just very all over the place. It was very it was just a lot of like errors. I think there was one. I forgot who it was, but they hit a sac fly in either the first or second inning, and they're going into the break after that inning. And one of the girls, she's like, and after that, RBI single or whatever it was, and like, no, that's not what happened. So it was just kind of a lack of, and it was, Chris Young too. I don't want to say that he was great just because he was the baseball. Like, it was all of them. They were just talking about random things, not even really about the game or the players, so to speak. It's watching Saturday going back to SNY felt like I was watching them for the first time. Like it was really, and I hope to God the Mets are not on Apple TV for the rest of this season. I can't do it. And then they have, how we have in the NFL and the NBA when they go to the ref for, the ref in the replay center in New York or Jersey.
I saw that.
I sent you the picture, and they just get their little like we are a little screen or a little square in the corner of the screen, and they're showing it. They had a picture. It was like basically a FaceTime. They had a FaceTime of this guy's webcam, but it was like this, and he was just a big room all behind
like all room one head. It was tiny head.
Took up like a third of the screen. It was just very It was plain and messy, technically, with difficulties, messy. And I just really hope the Mets aren't on Apple TV the rest of this season. And if your team is, God bless you. I feel bad for you.
Well,
really
it could be one of those things they're going to have to try and work on it to get the bugs out and the kinks out. But you would think it would have been cleaner, because I saw a lot of comments when it came to Apple TV and their broadcast on Twitter, because Twitter is never, ever, ever one to hold back on its opinions. And I saw a lot of that same stuff where people just felt it was very vanilla, very generic. There wasn't anything like magnanimous about it. It was just, it felt like kind of an older broadcast in some ways. Without
that's what baseball needs, an older style broadcast to really bring in the youth.
Oh. Yeah, but
you need that one camera angle they had in the 50s.
But Scott, you made the great point.
Black and white.
The tactic to try and attract to regain your fan base, reattract the fan base, get new fan, is not to have them sign up for a subscription.
Yeah.
That's not it.
And this is where my general concern of this comes in, where, you have games that are exclusive to, there were Devils games that were exclusive to Hulu. Obviously we have this. There were college football games like Ohio State that was exclusive to Peacock, and you have a lot of this stuff which is forcing, strong-arming Amazon TV. Amazon is going hardcore into this, and it's forcing people to have to spend subscription money, in order to watch this. And it's I don't know. Is collusion the right word I want to use?
No, it's not. The baseball, the leagues are taking the best way to get themselves paid, and the streaming services are fighting for their dollar. It's actually capitalism at its worst, because the fan is the one who suffers, because you're getting forced to be like, well, if you want to watch this sport, and I think that becomes, or hear me out, I could watch 4 dudes play the video game I'm good at for free on Twitch. I think I'll watch that Twitch stream for free. And I think it's a big mistake. I think it's a money now, losing steam and popularity later. But I also always wonder about like UFC. Like, I don't watch UFC fights anymore. 2 reasons. They're on too late for my old butt, and I have to pay extra.
I think Twitch should be the biggest player in this game. Being that you could just directly stream. You don't have to add it into your system. You could just stream it. They should be the biggest player in this.
But then how's Twitch going to make money? Like,
they'll find a way.
They'll do advertising.
They'll find a way. They'll find a way.
Yeah, granted, that was one of the things that you mentioned. You said pretty much like 90% of the advertisement was just for Apple TV.
It was. But at least if you're if there was like a collective with Twitch, and then you could keep it, but everything commercial was Apple TV, this Apple, Tom Hanks and Fitch, everything.
Adam Scott Severance.
Apple. I felt like I should have just gone to the Apple store and watched it.
But I get it makes sense, right? They want to get you to buy they are paying this money. It's a loss leader for them, is what it is. Mm-hmm. Watch baseball, so you buy the Apple, and then when the season's over, you're so into your Apple series and your Apple movies that you don't cancel your subscription. That's the plan.
PR people that are smarter than we are.
Marketing, yes, but they are smarter than us.
Yes. If, by the way, if you actually want to work for us, let me know. I can't pay you, but I can, I give really good handshakes. So, all right. So we got about 5 minutes left at this point. I want to go into one last thing. I think basically that 5 minutes falls into, there are 2 baseball teams in New York. One that I think is going to do well this season, and one that I believe is not going to do well this season. Brandon's team, I believe, is the team that is going to do well. My New York Yankees, I predicted to fall to literally 4th place this year. Part of my big focus with this is the issue that has gone on with Aaron Judge, who turned down a 7-year, $230 million deal. As Eduardo says, go Blue Jays. Yeah, that team's going to compete. He turned down a 7-year, $230 deal with the Yankees to stay with Pinstripes. What I think is part of the issue with this is he's made the announcement he's not going to basically do any contract negotiations, and he will go to free agency. Not to say he won't go back to the Yankees, but the New York Yankees went public, and they said he turned down this deal. And if you're Aaron Judge and you're sitting there saying, okay, they just aired this dirty laundry that I turned this down. This is something that if you're Aaron Judge, you're looking at this and thinking, they're throwing me under the bus right now. They're trying to hurt my reputation with the fans. I'm going to remember this come October. I'm playing for a contract year. I'm playing basically for the next, for what's upcoming right now. And speaking as myself as a Yankee fan, I'm going to ask the two of you guys in a second. I personally think this is Aaron Judge's last year in New York. Obie, what do you think?
I do too, and I'll tell you where I think he's going afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is going to your biggest rival in the Boston Red Sox.
I would say it's possible, yes.
Watch those balls fly over the green wall.
The green monster? Oh, yeah.
Watch it.
It's more like he's supposed to Toronto.
Nope. He will be a Red Sox come winter meetings.
I don't know where he's going, and I don't think it matters 4 games into the season. There's a lot to be seen. Will he stay? Will he get hurt? Will he not get? There's so much to see that at this point, trying to make that guess seems ridiculous to me. If he puts this team on his back and carries them to the playoffs and to a championship, he might get the
all the more reason to be gone.
But then the Yankees might give him that 10-year way too much money contract that's going to handcuff them.
This is Hal. This isn't George.
I understand, but that's why I don't know what's going to happen, and I think to try to make a prediction after 4 games, even if you're right, is a guess that you got right, not a prediction based on any real solid amount of information.
You're probably right. It is
tomato,
but that's how this rolls.
Tomato, tomato.
Yeah.
Tomato, that's fine.
Yeah. But no, I think in this case, but here's what's curious to me. If the Yankees do fall and land in 4th place, which again, I think is possible, and Aaron Judge leaves, do not be surprised if fans start calling for Hal Steinbrenner to sell the team. And the team may no longer be owned by the Yankees. I don't think it'll happen right away. But I think there may be an outcry that the Steinbrenners no longer control the New York Yankees after all these decades. I think it's very possible.
You know what that kind of sounds like? The buses over in LA not being able to run the Lakers properly anymore. Another family that should sell.
Although the buses did get a championship 2 years ago, so let's
no. LeBron and AD got them a championship 2 years ago.
Well, buses got out of the way. Let LeBron and AD get the job. I mean, you can't.
I know, but really though, yeah. They were there before them, and what did they do?
Yeah, no,
Diddly squat.
They have infighting in the Bus family that they need. They can't get out because they can't get the right group of people in and out. That's a whole different story. Where the Steinbrenners, it's just how manages the team like a modern owner, not like a we win at all costs owner, which
not like dad.
Which as a baseball fan who hates the Yankees, I always think the best thing for baseball is the Yankees being a dominant, dynastic team. And I think the Yankees' greatness and baseball's popularity ride hand in hand no matter how much I hate them. So yes, baseball needs the Yankees owner to act like they are the evil empire and buy every best player, pay them too much, and then ignore the financial losses. Like, we're just going to have you not get paid. See you later. Take your money. Goodbye. Next young bat in.
And disappoint like they did in 04, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. We got to wrap this up, though. Thanks as always.
Haven't been the same since Gregorius left.
Preach on that.
That was the moment.
Yeah. But anyway, we got to wrap this up. I'm Scott. That's Obie. That's Brandon. 7 o'clock tonight, we will be Tales from the Film Set, where we'll be discussing the retirement of Jim Carrey and Bruce Willis, as well as the breakdown on the passing of Gilbert Gottfried, which I am taking personally pretty friggin' hard because I've known that man for 8 years. So tune in for that. We're going to break down all of that stuff. 7 p.m. Eastern, right here. As for now, I'm Scott. That's Obie. That's Brandon. Thanks as always. Take care. Be awesome.